and she is the ultimate rancher's wife, and so Elizabeth knows that ultimately.
Unbelievable. 1923 Season 2 was supposed to have 8 episodes. We were promised 8 episodes. Taylor Sheridan himself said 8 more episodes were needed to finish the story. And now, boom. Episode 8 is gone. Just like that. No explanation, no warning, nothing. This is beyond frustrating. Fans have been waiting for months expecting a proper conclusion, only to find out that the final episode is episode 7. But why? Why did Paramount cut episode 8? What are they hiding? And most importantly, how the hell will they wrap up everything in just one final episode? Let's break it all down. At first, everything seemed normal. Season 2 was moving along, and we all believed that we were getting a full 8-episode season. Every single news outlet confirmed it. Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, even Paramount's own website. But then something strange happened. A few days ago, IMDb had no listing for episode 8. That was weird. Maybe they were just keeping details under wraps. Maybe they didn't want to spoil the finale. That's what I thought at first. But then the worst possible news hit Screen Rant reported that 1923 Season 2 would only have 7 episodes. No episode 8. At first, it sounded like a mistake. After all, Taylor Sheridan himself said he needed 8 episodes to tell the full story. He was very clear about that. So, why the sudden change? Did they run out of budget? Did the network force them to cut it? Did something happen behind the scenes that we don't know about? It didn't make sense. But the worst part? Paramount confirmed it. Yes, the official Paramount Plus page for 1923 quietly listed Season 2 as only having 7 episodes. No big announcement, no apology. They just tried to sneak it past us like we wouldn't notice. But we did, and now fans are furious. This means that episode 7, titled A Dream and a Memory, is the final episode of 1923 Season 2. And according to TV Insider, it will be nearly 2 hours long. So technically, they might have combined episodes 7 and 8 into one movie-length finale. But does that actually solve anything? Will one extra long episode be enough to tie up every loose end? Think about everything that still needs to happen. Spencer is still on the train. Alexandra is still making her way to Montana. Banner and Whitfield are still running loose. And now we have confirmation that episode 7 will include a flash forward to 1969 showing an older Spencer. So not only do they need to finish the 1923 storyline, but they're also opening a brand new chapter into the future? How? How can they possibly fit all of this into one episode? And let's not forget about the action-packed finale that we've seen in trailers. A massive gunfight at the train station with Jacob Dutton and his men waiting for Spencer, while Banner and the sheriff show up for a final showdown. This is supposed to be the defining battle of the season. But if it's crammed into a rushed finale, will it even live up to the hype? This decision feels like a betrayal. Fans invested so much time into this series, expecting a well-paced conclusion. And now, instead of giving us what they promised, they're forcing everything into one last episode. But why? What's really going on here? The truth might be even worse than we think. For months, we were led to believe that Season 2 would have 8 episodes. It wasn't just a rumor. It was official. Every credible source, every article, every interview confirmed it. Even Taylor Sheridan himself, the mastermind behind Yellowstone and 1923, said that the story needed 8 more episodes to be told properly. And yet here we are with episode 8 completely erased from existence. Let's break this down. When a show is greenlit for a season, the episode count is set in stone. Writers, directors, and producers plan everything based on that number. Scripts are written, filming schedules are locked in, and budgets are allocated. If Season 2 was truly supposed to have 8 episodes, then why did they suddenly cut it to 7? Did something go wrong during production? Was there a fight behind the scenes? Did Paramount pull the plug at the last minute? One thing is clear. This wasn't an accident. Paramount knew about this change long before we did. They just didn't want to tell us. Look at the way they handled it. IMDb mysteriously removed episode 8 from their listings. Paramount quietly updated their website to list only 7 episodes. When Screen Rant asked for confirmation, they finally admitted it, but only after being confronted. This wasn't a simple scheduling change. This was a calculated decision, and the fact that they tried to hide it makes it even worse. Think about it. Why would they need to keep this a secret? If the plan was always to merge episodes 7 and 8 into a feature-length finale, wouldn't they have just announced that from the start? Wouldn't they have reassured fans instead of letting them get blindsided by the news? The way this played out raises way too many red flags. And let's talk about Taylor Sheridan. The man is known for being meticulous with his storytelling. He doesn't just throw things together at the last minute. If he planned for 8 episodes, then he needed 8 episodes. Cutting one means something was sacrificed. What scenes were removed? What storylines were rushed? What important moments were lost? There's no way around it. Something shady happened behind the scenes. Either Taylor Sheridan was forced to wrap things up early, or he had to make a decision that went against his original vision. Either way, fans are the ones paying the price. And the biggest question of all, will this rushed ending ruin the entire season? At this point, we have to ask the biggest question of all. Why? Why did Paramount and Taylor Sheridan suddenly decide to cut episode 8? Why take a full season's worth of storytelling and shove it into one final episode? There has to be a reason, and if we look closely, the clues are right in front of us. TV shows aren't cheap, especially ones like 1923. This isn't some small-budget drama filmed on a soundstage. It's a massive production shot on location with huge action sequences, period-accurate sets, and a star-studded cast. And if there's one thing we know for sure, it's that 1923 had major budget issues from the start. Back when Season 1 was being filmed, reports surfaced that the series was one of the most expensive TV productions ever made. Just one season cost $30 million per episode, meaning the total budget was close to $250 million. That's insane for a TV show. Even Game of Thrones didn't cost that much per episode. And guess who wasn't happy about that? Paramount. Even though 1923 became a massive hit, Paramount was reportedly struggling with the costs. They knew they wanted a second season, but they didn't want to keep bleeding money. That's why Taylor Sheridan had to fight so hard just to get another 8 episodes. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Maybe Sheridan went over budget. Maybe Paramount executives panicked when they saw how much money was being spent. Maybe the network wanted to free up funds for their other shows, like the upcoming 1944 prequel. Whatever the case, it's very possible that cutting episode 8 was a financial decision. Less time filming means less money spent, and Paramount has already shown that they're willing to make drastic changes to save costs. But what if money wasn't the only factor? What if this was a creative decision forced by Paramount? Here's something interesting. Taylor Sheridan is known for being very controlling over his shows. He writes almost every episode himself he directs, and he refuses to let studio executives interfere. But with 1923, there were already signs that Paramount was starting to step in. Some insiders claim that Sheridan and the studio had creative disagreements over the direction of the show, and with the future of the Yellowstone universe at stake, it's possible that Paramount forced him to cut episode 8 to speed things up. And that brings us to another huge theory. Is this setting up another spin-off? Think about it. We already know that 1923 was supposed to tell the full story of Jacob and Cara Dutton, leading directly into Yellowstone. But now, we're getting hints of a time jump to 1969. Why would they introduce that in the final episode unless they were preparing for something bigger? Could Paramount be cutting episode 8 to make room for an entirely new series? Rumors have been swirling that Taylor Sheridan's next big project is Yellowstone, 1969. If that's true, then cutting episode 8 could be a strategic move to shift the focus toward a different time period. Instead of properly ending 1923, they could be leaving things open-ended on purpose, forcing fans to watch another show just to get closure. So, which is it? A budget cut, a behind-the-scenes creative battle, or a setup for another prequel series? Maybe it's all of the above. But no matter the reason, one thing is clear: fans deserve better than this. This is where things get messy. We're not just losing an episode, we're losing time. We're losing character development. We're losing payoffs for the buildup we've been following for 2 seasons. And now everything has to be forced into one final extra-long episode. Let's lay it all out. Spencer Dutton is still on the train. We've been waiting for this man to return home since season 1, and now it looks like he won't even make it to Montana until the final episode. That means all of his confrontations, all of his emotional reunions, and his big fight with Banner and Whitfield will be crammed into one last chapter. How will that feel natural? We've spent so much time on his journey, but now he barely has a moment to breathe before heading into battle. And what about Alexandra? The last time we saw her, she was still trying to get to the Duttons. There's no way she has enough time to play a major role in the finale, not with everything else going on. So, what happens to her? Does she finally make it to the ranch, only to be sidelined because there's no time left? Or worse, does her story get completely rushed and end in a way that doesn't do her justice? Then there's the train station shootout. The trailers have already teased a bloody showdown at the train station where Jacob and his men wait for Spencer while Banner and the sheriff show up to ambush them. This is the moment we've been waiting for, the culmination of all the tension built up over 2 seasons. But can they really do it justice in a single episode? If this battle is supposed to be the defining moment of the season, shouldn't it have time to unfold? If they rush through it just to squeeze in all the other storylines, it won't have the emotional weight it deserves. And here's another bombshell, a time jump to 1969. IMDb has already revealed that we'll be seeing an older Spencer in the finale, played by Gerard Sanders. That means that, on top of wrapping up all the chaos in 1923, the episode will also jump forward nearly 50 years into the future. What does that mean for the ending? Are we about to see a rushed epilogue where everything is told to us instead of shown? Will Spencer's fate be glossed over in favor of a cheap flash forward? And most importantly, if we're jumping to 1969, does that mean there won't be a season 3 at all? There's just too much to cover in one episode. Spencer's arrival, his final fight, Alexandra's fate, Teonna's revenge, the train station battle, the Duttons' future, and now a time jump? This is the exact problem that comes from cutting an episode. Instead of letting these events unfold naturally, everything has to be shoved into a single, overwhelming finale. And that's where the real fear comes in. Are we about to get a Game of Thrones-style disaster where the ending feels rushed, sloppy, and unsatisfying? Will fans walk away feeling cheated after investing so much time into this series? Or will Taylor Sheridan actually pull off a miracle and make it work? Right now, all signs point to a rushed, chaotic finale. But there's still one question left. Why? Why would they do this? What's the real reason behind cutting episode 8? Let's be honest, this isn't just disappointing. It's infuriating. Fans of 1923 have been invested in this story for years. We've followed every twist, every heartbreak, every moment of tension, believing that we would get a proper, well-paced conclusion. And now, in the final stretch, they rip episode 8 away from us without warning. People are angry, and rightfully so. Just look at the reaction online. Reddit threads, Twitter discussions, and YouTube comments are blowing up with frustrated fans. Some feel betrayed, others feel like they've been lied to from the beginning, and many are wondering if they should even trust Taylor Sheridan or Paramount ever again. And let's talk about what this means for the future of Yellowstone spin-offs. Paramount is already juggling multiple Yellowstone projects. 1944, another prequel focused on the next generation of Duttons. 6,666, a modern-day spin-off set at the legendary Four Sixes Ranch. And possibly Yellowstone 1969, which might be why we're suddenly getting a time jump in 1923. Fans are starting to wonder, are they cutting episode 8 just to funnel viewers into the next show? Instead of giving 1923 the ending it deserves, is Paramount rushing to move on to the next money-making project? This isn't the first time the Yellowstone franchise has mishandled things. Look at what happened with Yellowstone itself. Kevin Costner's exit was a mess, with the show suddenly forced to wrap up without its main character. Now, we're seeing something similar with 1923. Instead of finishing the story properly, they're slamming the door shut and moving on. And that's what stings the most, the broken trust. Think about all the promises that were made. Taylor Sheridan said he needed 8 episodes. That was his plan. Paramount listed 8 episodes on their site. That was their confirmation. Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb had 8 episodes listed. That was official. And yet, here we are. Episode 8 is gone. Just erased. Like it never existed. Fans have every right to be angry. This was supposed to be a grand, satisfying conclusion. Instead, it's looking like a rushed, sloppy ending to an incredible story. The worst part? The people making these decisions don't care about the viewers. To them, this is just another business move. But for us, it's personal. So, what happens now? Is there any hope left for a proper ending? Or is this how 1923 will be remembered? A great show that collapsed in its final moments? At this point, we have to ask, is this really the end of 1923? Or is there something more going on behind the scenes? With episode 8 completely erased, all eyes are now on the final episode. Episode 7, A Dream and a Memory. It's supposed to be nearly 2 hours long, but let's be real. Is that really enough? How can one episode, no matter how extended, truly wrap up all of these complex storylines in a way that feels satisfying? Here's everything that still needs to be resolved. Spencer's journey back to Montana and his ultimate showdown with Banner and Whitfield. Jacob Dutton's fate. Will he survive the final battle? Teonna's revenge. Will she finally take down Father Renault? Alexandra's arrival. Will she even make it in time? The future of the Dutton family. What happens after the dust settles? A shocking time jump to 1969. How does that change everything we thought we knew? This is way too much story for one episode. Even if it's 2 hours long, that's not the same as having an extra episode to build up these moments properly. Instead of taking its time, the show will have to rush through massive events, and that's the worst possible way to end such an incredible series. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Could there still be an episode 8 that hasn't been officially announced yet? Could Paramount be pulling a last-minute stunt to surprise fans? There's a small chance. Some studios have done things like this before, keeping a secret episode hidden until the last moment for marketing reasons. But let's be honest, this doesn't feel like a marketing stunt. It feels like a mess. If Paramount was planning to surprise us, they wouldn't have been so sneaky about it. Instead of denying episode 8 exists, they would have teased it in some way to build excitement. So, as much as we want to believe a surprise episode could be coming, it's not likely. If we're not getting an episode 8, then what about a third season? Could Taylor Sheridan and Paramount decide to extend the story and give us a proper conclusion later on? At this moment, season 3 hasn't been announced, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Here's why 1923 is a massive hit. Paramount knows how popular it is, and cutting the story short now would be a financial mistake. 2. The Yellowstone universe is still expanding. They've already announced 1944, and 1923 could easily lead into that. 3. The time jump to 1969 hints at something bigger. Why introduce such a big change in the final episode if they weren't planning to explore it further? But here's the problem. Even if Season 3 does happen, it won't fix the rushed ending of Season 2. Fans will still feel cheated out of the original vision and will be left wondering what Episode 8 was supposed to be. What this means for the future of the Yellowstone universe. This whole situation raises a bigger issue. Can we even trust Paramount anymore? They've mishandled the Yellowstone franchise so many times now that fans are starting to lose faith. Yellowstone itself has been plagued with behind-the-scenes drama leading to Kevin Costner's messy departure. 1883 was originally supposed to continue, but they abruptly ended it with no plans for more episodes. 1923 was supposed to have 8 episodes, but they cut it down to 7 at the last minute. What's next? Will 1944 be affected too? Will they start making changes to Yellowstone's final episodes? Or worse? Will the entire franchise start to collapse under the weight of its own behind-the-scenes problems? Taylor Sheridan built this universe from the ground up, but it's starting to feel like Paramount is calling all the shots now. If that's the case, then we should expect more unexpected cancellations, more rushed endings, and more disappointment in the future. So, after all of this, we have to ask, is it still worth watching 1923 knowing how it's going to end? Here's the harsh reality. Yes, the show is still incredible. Yes, the acting is phenomenal. Yes, the story is gripping. But the way it's ending, it's a betrayal of everything we were promised. Fans deserve closure. We deserve a finale that feels earned, not rushed. We were told we would get 8 episodes, and now we're being forced to accept a 7-episode conclusion that crams everything into one rushed final chapter. Will it still be entertaining? Of course. Will it still have incredible moments? Probably. But will it feel complete? Absolutely not. Unless something changes at the last minute, 1923 will go down in history as yet another show that promised greatness, but stumbled at the finish line. So, what do you think? Is this the worst decision Paramount has made? Do you think they're rushing 1923 on purpose? And most importantly, will you still watch the finale knowing how badly they handled this? Let me know in the comments.